Today's story is the crow. The crow. Crow is I don't know, maybe it's a bird, but it's a black bird. Quack, quack. It's a big black bird. It's a crow, okay? A long time ago, many, many years ago, there were 3 girls. 1, 2, 3. Okay, there were 3 girls. Okay? Now, these girls were all princesses. They were a princess. The 1, 2, 3, 3 princesses. Now, these 3 princesses were all very nice and pretty. They were pretty. But the youngest princess, she was not as pretty as the other 2. She was the youngest. The youngest princess was not as pretty as the other 2. She was not fairer. Fair means, in this text, fair means pretty. So golden hair and white skin and stuff like that. But anyway, she was not fairer than the other 2. But she was very nice. She was a good girl. She was cute. She was lovable. Lovable. She was lovable. She was likable. She was very likable. People liked her. Likable. She was likable. She was lovable. And she was sweet. And she was kawaii. Okay, she was cute. Now, this girl lived in, these 3 girls lived in a big castle. They lived in a big castle. But when they went about 800 meters, okay, half a mile, I think a mile is 1,600 meters, 1 kilo and 600 meters. And so about half a mile from their house or from their castle, okay, there was a forest. And in the forest, there was an old castle. There was an old castle, okay, an old castle. But this castle was almost a broken castle. It was an old castle and nobody lived there, and it was almost like a broken, destroyed, not very nice. It was like where does it go? Can't remember. But anyway, it was like a ruin. Ruin means destroyed, okay? It was almost a destroyed place. But around the castle, there were lots of beautiful flowers. A mass of blooming flowers. Blooming means, it's blooming. The flower blooms. And so there were a mass of means a lot of blooming flowers around this castle. This is a broken castle, but there were lots of nice flowers. And so the youngest princess liked to go to this place a lot. So she would go to this place and she would just, I don't know what she did in this area, but she just walked around and round, back and forth in this area because she liked it. She liked this place. One day, when she was walking back and forth, mean she was pacing. Pace. She was walking around. She was pacing back and forth, pacing to and fro. To and fro. To and fro means back, go forth and back and forth. Go from here to there, from here to there. Okay? Then when she was walking around, there came a bird. This crow. Crow came, and the crow came out of a rose bush. The crow came out of the rose bush. Now, when the princess was, the princess was here. Okay, she was walking, and she was walking, and there was this rose bush. Rose bush is like the rose, the flower's rose bush. Okay, this is a rose, not a rose tree, but small bush. Yeah, so out from the rose bush, hopped out. Hop means jumped out. The crow. A crow jumped out. Okay, crow jumped out. Now, when the princess saw this crow, she was not happy. Oh, she said, she felt very unhappy. Okay, she's a very nice girl. Remember, she's a very nice girl. She's a very cute girl. She's very loving, and everybody liked her, and she had a nice heart. Yeah, she was a kind girl. When she saw this bird, crow, she was unhappy. She felt sad. In other words, she felt sad. The reason why she felt sad was because this crow was hurt. The crow was bleeding. Bleeding means blood was coming out. You know, the red blood, the blood. The crow was bleeding and all torn. It was all torn. Torn means like, when you tear the paper, yeah? Or torn means lots of injuries, cut, and then blood. And so the bird was bleeding and it was all torn. It was such a miserable sight. He looked very, very sick, okay? He or she, or you don't know yet. It looked very sick. The princess saw the bird and she was unhappy. Now, this is interesting. Because the bird saw that she was unhappy, that means he felt that he or she, or we don't know yet. We don't know if this is she or he yet. Yeah, it felt that the princess felt sympathy for it, and so that's how it says in the text. So it spoke. The bird spoke and said, "Hey, princess, can you help me?" He said. And so the girl said, "Of course I'll help you. What's your problem? What can I do for you?" She said to him. And then he said, "Guess what? I'm not really a crow. I'm not really a bird. I am a prince." Okay, prince. Can you see? Okay, now. What's a prince? This is princess. These are princess. Prince, he says, I am a prince. I am an enchanted prince. Enchanted means enchanted. Enchanted means somebody cast a spell on me. You know, a witch cast a spell on me. And I was being changed into a crow. I'm not really a crow. I'm really a prince, he said. Okay? He said, I am doomed. I am fated. Doomed. Doomed. I'm doomed means it is ill fate. Ill fate. Okay? I didn't want to become a crow, but it's my destiny. You know, I am doomed. For some reason, somebody cast a spell on me, and I have this ill fate. I'm a crow. Can you help me? So she said, you know what? She says, of course I can help you. I will help you, she said. It's not like, well, I don't know. Let me think about it. She didn't say that. At once. At once means immediately she said, sure, I will help you. You know, this girl may not be pretty as these sisters, but she was a very lovable girl. She was a very good girl. She had a very good heart. And so she said, of course I'll help you. Yeah? And then he said, I live in this castle. I live in this broken castle. Now, I want you to come and live with me. He said, you must now say goodbye to your sisters and mother and father, leave everybody behind and come to my castle and live with me. And I want you to be my constant companion. Constant means always my friend. Always. You must commit yourself 100% to me. Okay? You cannot live with these people. You gotta come with me to the castle and live with me. Constant companion. Constant means always. Companion means friend. Okay? Constant. Constant means always, always. Companion. Companion means friend. Okay, so I want you to become a constant companion. He said, the castle that I live in, this ruined castle, it is ruined, but there is only one room which you can live. Habitable room. There is a place, habitable. Habitable means you can live. It's possible to live. Habitable room. There is only one habitable room, the room that you can live in. This habitable room has a golden bed. So you can come and stay in this habitable room, the room that you can inhabit means the room that you can live. And in this room there is this beautiful golden bed. And then you can live there, he said. Okay? But the thing is, he said, what you have to do to save me from this magic spell is that you got to live with me for 2 years. 2 years. You have to live with me in this castle for 2 years. And then every night when you go to sleep, somebody comes. I don't know how many, 3, 4, 5. Strange people come. Strange people will come. And then they will want to do horrible things to you. But you must not say a word. You must not utter as much as a single cry. You must not utter. Utter means say. Okay? You must not say a single word. Like if you say, oh no good. You cannot say, that's not good. You cannot say anything. You have to be quiet. Even though strange people come and they will try to do something strange thing to you, but don't say a word, he said. If you say a word, my suffering means pain. My suffering will be doubled. So I will be cut. I will have pain. My pain will be doubled, twice as much. So, can you do that? Come with me and live in this room, and then sleep in this golden bed. But during the day, it's okay. But at night, strange people come. But can you be quiet for all night long? Oh my gosh, she said, sure, I will do that for you. Wow, brave girl. And so she went back to her house. She picked up her clothes, She packed her suitcase and she left the family, the father and mother and sisters, and came to this castle, which was a ruined castle. Okay. Now, but it's only 800 meters away. Okay. And so she began to live here. And during the day it was okay. But on the first night, when she went to sleep, she tried to go to sleep. She shut her eyes. But she couldn't go to sleep. She couldn't go to sleep. Sleep would not come. And then soon she heard somebody was coming in the hallway. She heard the footsteps, She heard the footsteps of some people coming towards her room, and then suddenly the door was flung wide open. Fling means dong. The door was flung. Okay? The door was flung wide open. Bang! And some people came in. It says a troop of means a group of, so we don't know how many, 5, 6, 7, 8, I don't know. So a troop of people, troop means a group of people came in, and they began to, there was in this beautiful room, there was a fireplace. Okay, fire, and then the wood, and the fire. Okay, the fire. Now, they put a big pot. They put a big pot on the fire, and they began to boil hot water. They didn't call it pot, they called it cauldron. Cauldron is a big pot. Cauldron is a big pot. So these people began to boil hot water, and then when the water was boiled, they came and picked up the girl. Wake up, and they began to drag her. Drag means pulled her towards the boiling water. The girl was shaking, and she was frightened. She was scared. She said, "Oh no," but she did not utter a word. She did not say anything. She almost wanted to scream. She felt like she was going to die, but, she felt like she was going to die. She felt like she nearly died with fright. She felt like she almost, She felt like she almost, She almost felt like she was going to die with a fright. Fright means, it's not a flight. Flight is like the airplane flight, yeah? Fright is a frightening, terrified. So she almost was so frightened, but she almost felt like she was going to die, but she never uttered a sound. She never uttered a sound. Okay? Uttered. She never uttered a sound. Means she didn't say a word. And then, suddenly, in this text, it's really interesting. I don't know if it's, I hope it's true. It says, of a sudden. I know all of a sudden, but it doesn't say in the text all of a sudden. It says, then, of a sudden, it says. Anyway, then, of a sudden, cock crowed. Cock, remember? Cock is a male chicken. Okay? Cock crowed. Okay. Crowed means cock cried. Cock, kukurukuru or something, yeah? In Japanese, kokikoko. But cock crowed. But so it's crew. Cock crew. And then suddenly these strange people disappeared. Gone. She was very, very happy. She was very happy. Okay? Then, in the morning, the crow came. The bird came and he said, thank you, he said. He said, thank you very much for doing that. He said, my suffering has already weaker. I don't suffer as much as before. My suffering is getting less and less. My suffering lessened. Less. Okay, less. En. Lessen means become smaller and smaller, or become softer. So my suffering is softer now. He thanked. Yeah, because it said he was a prince. So he said he thanked her very much. He thanked her heartily. 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 He thanked her heartily means with all his heart. He thanked her sincerely. He thanked her genuinely. He thanked her very much, heartily. Okay? Thank you, he said. Okay. Now, so the girl stayed here. She had to stay for 2 years, and so she was doing this for a while. She was, Then the oldest sister was very curious. She said, where did she go? With a suitcase. She hasn't been back for months. And so she became very curious. She became very, very curious. And she was quite inquisitive. Inquisitive means she asked around. She spied on her. She wanted to know what the youngest sister was doing. She was quite curious and she was quite inquisitive. She asked around and she spied. And then she found out that this girl was staying in this castle, in the ruined castle. And so she came to the castle and she said to the youngest sister, hello, youngest sister. Why are you staying in this castle? She said, let me stay with you. And she said, no, you can't come and stay. But she said, oh, come on, let me stay with you tonight. And so because the oldest sister was so persistent, she was so persistent. And also she said, please, please, and she begged. She begged and said, oh, please let me stay, she said. she implored. And she said, let me stay. So the girl, she was a very good-natured girl. She's a good, kind girl. She said, okay, you can stay then, she said, okay. But that night, the two girls was staying in the same bed, but then at midnight, strange people came, and then they began to boil hot water, and after they boiled the hot water, they came and they dragged the two girls, and then this older sister, she just went crazy. She screamed and cried. And so, but the youngest girl didn't cry. Okay? And then in the morning, when the cock crew, the people left, and so it was okay. Okay? All you had to do was, these bad people will go away anyway when cock crew, and so all she had to do was just endure. You know, she had to just be quiet and wait until the time passes. When the time passes, and so you know, but it's still scary. But anyway, so the next day, she said to the older sister, "You can't come anymore." She said, she said, "No more." She said, "I will not accept. I don't want you to come and stay." She insisted. Means she demanded. The girl demanded, "You can't come anymore." And so the older sisters never came. Okay? Now, for 2 years, this girl stayed in the castle for 2 years. And she lived in all by herself. You know, she couldn't talk to the bird. You know, the bird only came in the morning and said thank you. You know, he thanked her heartily every day, every morning. "Thank you. My pain is becoming better. You know, my pain is getting smaller. I'm not bloody anymore. And thank you." He thanked her every morning, but then she was alone all day, and so she lived there alone. You know, she lived in solitude. Solitude means aloneness. Okay, nobody's around. Solitude, alone. She lived alone, and so she was sad. But then you know, she was a good girl, and she wanted to help the prince, and so she lived there. Now, after 2 years, the bird came. The bird came to her, and the bird said to her, "Thank you." You know, he said, "I had to be in this form of a bird, a crow. I had to be a crow for 7 years. But I only have 1 more year left." Okay? So he said, "What I want you to do now is that you don't have to live in this castle anymore." He said, "You have to go into the world. You're a princess, but you have to go into the world." It means you have to go out there to the city, and you must work. You must work as a servant maid. Servant maid. You know servant maid, yeah? Servant maid means you work for somebody, and you clean and wash and scrub and polish and stuff like that. Excuse me. The dust. The chalk dust. Okay. But he said, "You've got to go into the forest, not forced. You have to go into the world and work as a servant maid for 1 year. Okay? So the girl said, sure, I'll do that for you. And so she left the castle and she went into the world. I mean, she went into a city. And she got herself a job. You know, she went to, I don't know where she went. She went to a rich man's house and knocked on the door and said, please let me work for you as a servant maid. So she looked for a job and she got a job as a servant maid. And so she worked hard every day from early morning till late at night. See, she's a princess. She never did things like that. And she lived in a golden bed every night. But now, because she was a servant girl, she was not sleeping in a golden bed. She was probably sleeping on a wooden bed and a thin mattress, okay? And she worked hard from morning till late at night. And because although she was pretty and she was a good-natured girl, good-natured girl means good personality. She didn't get angry. She was happy all the time. She smiled all the time. And so she was a good-natured girl. And she was pretty. Nevertheless, people treated her badly. Okay? Well, okay, right. Yeah, in spite of her beauties, although she was very pretty, in spite of her beauty, in spite of her beauty, although she was beautiful, everybody treated her badly. Okay. Guess what? She worked as a servant maid for 1 year. Okay? There's always the beginning and the end. Whereas there's always something always starts and something always ends at one point. And so she worked for 1 year, and then 1 year passed. And one night, when she was spinning, spin is like okay? She's spinning. When she was spinning at the spinning wheel, she was working. And she was a princess, and so she had a beautiful soft white hands. She had a beautiful soft white hands. But when she was spinning the wheel, and her hands were becoming tired. Weary means tired. I don't know what they have to do when they spin thread or flax, but the text says her hands became tired, weary. Suddenly, she heard some sounds. She heard some sounds of probably the birds' feathers were, pattering. Okay? I think it's pattering. But anyway, she heard some sounds of the bird flying. And then, suddenly she saw a young man. She saw a young man standing behind her or beside her. And she said, She said, who are you? She said, who are you? Who are you? She said. And then he said, I am the prince, he said. He said, thank you for freeing me from the spell of the wicked witch. Thank you for freeing me from the most awful, most terrible suffering, most terrible pains, most terrible, most awful. Awful means very bad. Torments means suffering, pain, very bad pain. Thank you for helping me, freeing me. Okay, free. Set me free. Thank you for freeing me from the awful torments. Torments is like, suffering, pain, it's sadness, torments, your troubles, okay? He said, thank you. She said, oh, very good. So the seventh year is over. And he said, yes, the 7 year is over. Years is over. He said, let's go back to my castle and let's live together happily there in my castle, he said. Okay? And so she said, all right. And so the two, I forgot to tell you, the prince took her weary hands and kissed her hands. Okay? And then the two of them went back to the castle. Now, when they came to the ruined castle, remember? The ruined castle. When they came to this ruined castle, it was not ruined anymore. It had been rebuilt. Okay. They did the renovation. They did they made it better. They I can't remember the word. They made the renovation or they changed the carpet and they painted the walls and they put the new doors and they put the new windows. They made it better, the old building, because it was a ruined castle. So it had been rebuilt, okay, and redone. And so it was a beautiful castle. And so the prince and the princess, the youngest princess, went to this castle and they lived happily for 100 years. For 100 years of joy and happiness. So the princess waited for 3 years. She lived in the ruined castle for 2 years and endured every night every night because of strange people came and it was fearful. And so, but then she endured for 2 years. And then one more year, she went to a city and she became a servant and she worked as a servant girl. So, but then she waited for 3 years to have this forever happiness, 100 years of joy and happiness. How nice. The end.